Point Yacht Sales Virtual Boat Show. I'm Jen Flake. I'm joined by Jane Tayman from Trident Financial. We're going to be talking all about loans today. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it's been a crazy year. We went through, some good times and then some bad times and the good times. How are things in the boat loan business?
They're very strong. We've had an extremely busy spring and summer, and it's continuing on into the fall. It's been very stressful at times, but also very rewarding in the fact that we're able to get many people out on the water that have never experienced it before. So in the times that we're living in now, it's a great thing because it relieves a lot of stress for people.
Yeah, it's a great activity for social distancing and time to spend with your family. With about financing, I know there's a lot of new buyers in the market. What are really banks looking for now in a potential buyer in a loan qualification?
So when an applicant comes to us and they're very new in the market and they haven't had any experience with a boat loan before, the lender's looking for, if we do pre-approvals or things like that, it gives them an idea of what they qualify for. The lenders are looking for comp credit, which is comparable credit, meaning the fact that they like to see that they've carried a loan similar to the size that they're looking for. So brand new applicants that have never applied for a boat loan before, it's definitely advisable to start a pre-approval to find out what they qualify for.
And how do you start that process? Is it something that's easy to do? Is they have to give you their entire 50-year of history of credit, or?
No, it's actually very simple. We have it's online through our website, or we can actually, if we can talk to a customer directly, we can send them a link to the application, which enables them just to completely fill out the application, submit it online. If the loans are typically under $100,000, we can get away with just sending in a copy of a pay stub, a recent pay stub, or a W-2 from the previous year. And that's really the only requirement that we need to get things started for the pre-approval.
And do you recommend pre-approvals for new boats, brokerage boats, for everything, or just, the new boats coming through?
We feel it's very advantageous for the entire process to get that started first. It just enables the buyer to be in a very good position when he's actually making an offer on a boat, because he's pre-qualified. He knows exactly where he's comfortable as far as his payments. Knowing that he's qualified gives him that advantage to be able to make an offer. Sellers are typically more advantageous to take an offer if they know that the buyer is pre-qualified. And again, it doesn't take very long to do the pre-approval. Customers it's a free thing. It's not like it costs them any money to do that, or it doesn't obligate them to take the loan. It just secures that financing for them in the event they decide to move forward with the purchase.
And we're live, so if people are joining us on live and you have questions, please feel free to ask. So you don't have to have a specific boat to get pre-approved, but once you find your dream boat, what happens then?
So once the boat is, and in order to get pre-approved, they will need to select a boat of choosing. So it doesn't have to be the one that they actually end up with, but we tell customers to maybe pick the most expensive boat that they would consider buying and start kind of laying the groundwork for the bank with that. And then once the approval is done, it's locked in for 60 days. So they have plenty of time to shop, come back to me. If they come back and find a different boat that they're looking to purchase versus the one they applied with, we just call and change the collateral with the lender. So it's pretty quick. Once the approval is done, then we go over it with the customer to let them know what kind of stipulations that the lender's requiring. And those are typically a copy of a marine survey that they would like to review, maybe verification of liquidity, depending on how large this transaction is. And once those things are satisfied, then we move to closing.
Is there any difference between a new boat loan and a kind of used brokerage boat loan?
They're very similar. And down payments and things are really required dependent on the size of the transaction. So on the larger scales, they're going to be looking for 15 to 20%. A lot of the new boats, some of the lenders do want the full 20% down because it is a depreciating asset, so they like that equity up front. So that's typically really the only difference. If you're staying with a boat that's 10 years or newer, you're going to get pretty much about the same rates.
And then if I choose a boat, let's say I went and chose the most expensive boat I'm thinking about, and then through the buying process, I find a different kind of make and model, just the application process is an update. It's not a whole reapplication process.
Yeah, that is correct. So they do not have to go through the whole pre-approval process again. They have that 60-day mark where they can just give us a call and let us know what the new collateral is. Now the loan may get a little adjusted depending on how old the boat is. So if they applied with a newer boat and then they come back to us with something older, then the rate and term may change depending on what that is. But they do not have to go through the whole process again, which is very nice. It's kind of all of that's kind of done on the back end, and then it's just a matter of changing collateral with the lender.
And so here's the big question everyone wants to know: where are the rates today?
So rates are still very attractive. We do not run parallel. We have some customers who are they compare us to like home mortgages. We don't run parallel with that, but the rates are still competitive. So they're ranging anywhere from 3.99 to 4.5%. Depending again on the size of the transaction, which is very competitive right now in the market. And it's pretty much maintained that way all the way through the springtime. It's maintained, so it's good.
And then the terms, are we looking at 15, 20-year terms on those rates?
Yeah, so the options for terms are 10, 12, 15, and 20 years. 20 years is the max. We do have a few lenders that'll go for a 25-year term, but that would require a larger down payment, like 30 to 35%.
Okay. And then here are some questions that came in on the other. Can a boat be placed in an LLC or trust?
Absolutely.
Get a loan for that?
Yes. So initially, the customer is qualified as an applicant. Once the approval has been approved from the lender, then we just request from the customer if he wants to put it in the trust. We ask for a copy of the trust for the legal department to review from the lender. And if they want to put it in an LLC, we also ask for the operating agreement, articles of incorporation, and a good standing certificate for that LLC that's reviewed by the legal department at the bank. Once they've approved that, then we can place the loan in either the trust or the LLC at the time of closing.
So the LLC has to be owned by the initial applicant.
Correct.
You can't have additional applicants on the LLC.
That is correct. And it can be the only asset of that LLC. So the LLC cannot have multiple assets of it. It can only have the boat as a single asset.
Okay. And they can get more information from you if they have questions on how to create, how this whole process around LLCs.
Absolutely. It's just a phone call, a very quick phone call. We can go over all the details to explain. It's this very simple transaction. It's not very involved. If they have an LLC and it already has assets, they can do a shell corp, which they can create with their attorney pretty quickly.
And then is it tax deferred,
So we always recommend that they contact their tax attorney. However, if they do not have a second home currently, they can write that interest off as a second home.
Okay.
Which is a nice feature.
Yeah, that is a nice feature. And please, if you have any questions, please ask online, or especially around the LLC and tax, please talk to your tax advisor. A couple more questions. So in these boat loans, does it have to be Coast Guard documented?
So depending again on the size of the transaction, typically the lender, this is how they secure the lien on the boat. It's moving collateral, it's risky collateral. So by placing the boat in the documentation, it enables them to basically secure that lien through the moving collateral. The requirement typically is if the boat is over 30 feet and over 50,000, they usually want it to be documented. Or if it was previously documented with another owner, they would like to have it redocked again.
And what's the process to get Coast Guard documented?
So we basically have to use a certified documentation company that's approved by the lender. So we have a full array of documentation companies that we use, and they do some lien searches on the vessel to make sure it was never, if it was documented before, if there's any outstanding liens, we get that information up front. They prepare all the ship's mortgages that are filed with the Coast Guard and the lender. So there's a fee that's paid at closing for the documentation. That's about $550. It's a one-time fee that's paid. And it's kind of like a title insurance, if you will, because it gives them some security knowing that the documentation company holds the errors and omissions policy. So if anything ever fell back on the loan that came in, someone said, maybe we have a lien that's outstanding, the documentation company has that errors and omissions policy that will cover that.
Great. And is a survey required on these loans?
Typically, if the boat is older than 2019, they will want a survey. Anything newer than that, sometimes they'll just ask for an inspection, which would just basically mean someone would go to we'd hire a third party to go to the boat, take some pictures to make sure that the boat's in good condition. So they're not required on all of the vessels. It's really case by case, but typically anything older than a 2019, they will require it.
Great. I know we're having this virtual boat show for because the real boat shows have been canceled. So let's talk about boat shows. I know in the past you've always had a booth and people come by and say hi and get information. What do you miss about not having the shows this year?
Well, the boat shows are just such a good vibe. It's a kind of a great way to end the summer. You know, we have the fall boat shows, and I feel like it's a good camaraderie between all of our industry friends who sometimes feel more like family over the years. It's been just such a great time to get everybody together at one time. Also, always running into some previous customers. We get a lot of people that'll stop by our booth and tell us how great they love the boat that we were able to finance for them. So having all of that socialization and camaraderie between everyone is just such a great boost of energy, if you will. So I'm going to miss that a lot. It was actually very strange in the spring not having it at that time, just because that kind of kicked off the season. So it is just something that, you know, unfortunately we can't do right now, but I'm hoping that we will be able to get that back in order in the spring to come.
I miss having bagels and coffee with you in the morning.
Oh, well, I'll have to come over and bring some. I know, it's usually a great way to kick off the day too, to come in the tent and have some bagels and coffee and chat and, you know, kind of get your day started.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to miss it too.
I also miss having all the information at one place. So if a customer's coming in, looking at a new boat and they're asking about rates, we just kind of have them walk them over to your booth and have them fill out the application right there and kind of get the process started.
Yes, it is. It is just nice because then they can kind of have the one-on-one, which I feel like is very important. Having one-on-one conversations versus emailing and phone calls, it's just more personal. And I think it means a lot when we can be in front of the customer.
Well, hopefully we'll get back to the next year, but it's been great.
Yes.
This year, it's been super busy and we've been able to accomplish everything remote via Zoom or via WebEx, whatever anyone's using. Is there any questions out there we can help answer? Jane, would you like to add anything?
Just basically, if you know, the best thing to do when a customer's looking to get pre-approved is to make that phone call versus just applying online. I think it's important to have a conversation with the loan officer so that they can really get a good feel for what the client's looking for. Because when those applications come in, we like to know, when we have partnered with about 13 different sources for lending. So we want to make sure that we don't map it out to all of the lenders that we have. So we would like to get a real good understanding of what the customer's looking for. So we're limiting the amount of pools that he's going to have on his credit. We'd like to have one pool when we underwrite and one pool when the lender looks at the application. So having that conversation really gives us a good idea of where to place them. Mm-hmm. So we think it's really important to have that conversation versus just applying online and, you know, shooting it out to the stars and seeing what happens. It opens them up for a little bit of, you know, vulnerability when it comes to the credit pools. So that I think it's very advantageous to make the phone calls and have a conversation with your loan officer first.
So one more plug, Lauren, can you put up the website again for Jane? It's Trident Funding. .com. Jane is the sales manager and lead loan officer, and the numbers on the website.
So we have 7 offices around the state. So we have one in Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, North Carolina, Florida, 2 in California, and 1 in Washington State. So my office is located in Annapolis, Maryland. So you can see at the top of the page here where it has the office tab, you would just click that tab and you can scroll down and you can see all the different offices that are available.
Great. I didn't know you had
the Annapolis
on the
one.
West Coast. That's a pretty, you're basically nationwide.
Yes, we are. So we've had a tremendous year. We've serviced, I believe, over 1,400 customers this year so far, year to date, which I think is amazing. Yeah. So it's been a very good year, and it's been very rewarding. Just being able to get people out there, knowing all the stresses that we're all encompassing right now. It's really nice to be able to help get people out and explore this wonderful adventure out on the water, which is, to me, is a great escape. And it's actually a very good disconnect from the day-to-day stresses. So it's been rewarding to get new people out on the water.
Yes, it has been. So if you need any more information, please look up Jane at Trident Funding. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yep, we are here at Annapolis at, this way, Jabin's Yacht Yard for our Walk the Docks this weekend. We'll be here tomorrow and Sunday with various boats on display. So we're trying to do an open house slash Walk the Docks feature. Please contact us if you need to schedule an appointment, but we have all of our boats here lined up and ready to show. Thanks again, Jane, for joining us.
Thank you.
And see you guys on the water.
Thank you. Everyone be well.